are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 83 of the College Loop Podcast. And all of us are back in the studio today. Tarr, how you doing, buddy? It's been a long time since you've been back on the loop, as it is.
It's been since the Thursday show, but carry on. Yeah, I mean, pop off. I just have
a lot has happened in the last few days. So
a lot going on. Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Glad to be back and loving these midweek shows. Saturday night baseball games every single weekend are killing me. So Sunday's a little off the table right now until future and put on the pause. But I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Daniel, how we doing?
Happy 4th of July to all of our listeners out there.
Independence Day,
my personal favorite holiday. I'm doing pretty good. You know, just another wonderful day here in the northeastern United States.
Big happy birth to Atlanta, not Atlanta. Hello, the United States. I said America, and then I don't know where I was going with that, and I slipped on my own words. And yeah, I'm just ready to keep moving forward. Happy big birthday for America, bro. Big time.
Yeah, happy birthday to the greatest country in the world, the U.S. of A. And to kind of get into more less exciting news, I guess probably like we had a great day yesterday, social media wise.
Yeah, I know, a ton of fun
on our end.
Yeah.
We have a potential great interview possibly coming up. We got likes from a lot of big name people. We appreciate all the love we've been getting from those posts. We'll definitely try to get more up regarding people who like this.
Hey, shout out my man Sammy Coates, bro. I'm just waiting on the wine club interview, the wine tasting interview. That's all I'm waiting on.
Yeah, that'll be a great interview whenever it happens. But
jump over to football, and I know that you're really, really excited. You get to talk about your favorite team in the SEC, not named Auburn, the Texas A&M Aggie people, dog people, 12th man, cult members.
I mean, you know me. I'm a big supporter of the Texas A&M Aggies, and going into week 4 of the season, that is Auburn's first SEC game where you have to travel to College Station. Time is TBA. You finally get to see what Hugh Freeze can do against an SEC opponent. And, I mean, last year, the A&M game was one of the most hyped up games of the season because that was the first game Cadillac was the head coach of the Auburn Tigers in Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Right.
And the lights were on. The stadium was orange for 20 minutes before the game even started. Like it was hyped up. It was just on SEC Network last night, and that game speaks for itself. That game was awesome. It took a while. It took 8 games of the season for me to be really excited about watching an Auburn football game again. And we go into this season, and I hate to be the bearer of old news, but the first SEC game of the 2013 season was against A&M in College Station, where the Auburn Tigers announced to the college football world that they are back. And Hugh Freeze has a chance to go into this game as right now and prove that he has turned around a team that desperately needed it with a hyped-up transfer portal class, a hyped-up high school recruiting class, and a chance of a really highly touted 2024 class as it stands right now if things were to go in the way Auburn fans and Auburn media are hoping it does. And, I mean, this game can go both ways. If I go off ESPN FBI, they have currently A&M to the percentage for A&M to win is 76.5. And I don't know if I fully believe that. I think A&M is probably in the same kind of ruck that Auburn is in. The only difference is Auburn could afford to fire their head coach last year. That's the big difference here. And I think that's going to be one of those games that Jimbo Fisher doesn't find a way to win. I think they're going to find the $80 million very quickly. So just y'all's thoughts on the game before I read off all the stats.
Daniel, I'll let you open up if you'd like.
Why don't you go first?
I mean, I got a simple answer here, and it's not well thought out. It's all right. Make or break deal for Jimbo Fisher. I think he breaks. I mean that sincerely. Not everything execution-wise. Y'all have heard this before, Auburn fans, so buckle up. Execution-wise is not always on the coaching staff. Schematics and culture is. And I think there's a serious lack thereof in Texas A&M and College Station. Guys, I mean, my anticipation for Texas A&M in the year of our Lord 2023 is the floor. I mean, I'm genuinely looking for yet another horrifically embarrassing campaign from Texas A&M. I think that Jimbo's lost enough people around him, and quite frankly, nothing about their roster construction wows me because none of it's proven. Does that make sense? There's just no part of the A&M game where I look and go, wow, this team is head and shoulders better than insert literally any other team in the country. I just can't find it. And until they get out of, like Dylan mentioned, this rut, I'm going to have a hard time picking A&M to win any game. Like FBS, FCS. I don't know that I care. It's just they're just not – there's not a winning football culture at Texas A&M to really wow me. And I think that the past couple of years we've just sat there and watched Jimbo spiral. Think about if A&M never beats Alabama in 2021, is Jimbo Fisher standing here right now? No. Is he employed? No. Answer's it's that simple. Jimbo Fisher loses his job after losing to App State last year if they lose to Alabama for a year previous. I mean, it is almost – buckle up, Auburn fans. Gus Malzahn-esque in terms of doing enough to keep your job at the end of your tenure. Does that make sense? Gus Malzahn was better at it, like significantly better at it. But it really just feels like Jimbo's grabbing at straws, and all A&M continues to do is underwhelm, digress. I don't know. I'm looking at the overarching picture here, Dylan. I know that's probably missing the point, but there's really no piece of this roster construction where I'm like, wow, like they're so much better. So I just cannot – I can't sell myself on the Aggies.
And I mean, you go into the 2022 season, Texas A&M has the #1 class in the country going into that season, and
how many of them aren't there anymore?
There's quite a few that have left, and that goes into the point. Texas A&M lost the second most players in the SEC to the transfer portal at 31. Ole Miss had 34, but Ole Miss at least brought in over 10. I think A&M brought in 10, and the biggest acquisition A&M made this offseason, Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator, stole him from UNLV because Barry Odom wanted him.
Say what you want about him about his character. Also, Petrino's late resume has not been good.
No, it is not. Ever since after Arkansas, no. And I mean, Jimbo Fisher going to a 6th year with a record of 39-21 and a 23-18 record in the SEC. And I can't say that's better than Kevin Sumlin. And the only difference is Kevin Sumlin had Johnny Manziel. He only had it for 2 years, and I think he produced the same amount that Jimbo Fisher has put on the table, and I think Kevin Sumlin did it with less. They did it with a lot less. And, I mean, look at last year, 2022. You had the #1 class coming in. You had everything going for you. You had a transfer quarterback coming in. You had Max Johnson. You had Connor Wegman as the future, and you weren't expecting him to play this year. And I'm for Haynes King. You had Haynes King come in, the 4-star, who you thought –
Georgia Tech legend.
Yeah. Is he – yeah, he's a Georgia Tech, yeah. And if you ever watch Haynes King throw the ball, it hurts to watch. He literally I don't know. I can't even do it. It's weird. And you finish with a 5-7 record, 2-6 in the SEC.
Didn't make a bowl game because you had to play App State.
Yeah. And of course, they lost to Auburn 13-10. And your 2 wins in the conference, somehow one of them was LSU. And I just think LSU doesn't care about that last week of the season if they're not going to the playoffs, and they kind of ruined their chances of going to the playoffs. They could have lost to Georgia and still found a way to sneak their way into the playoffs. And look at last year. I mean, the difference between the offense and defense is bewildering me. So I'm gonna start with the defense first. The defense last season for Texas A&M finished 52nd in the country.
They're bad,
allowing 365. And I'll get to what's good about them first. Their pass defense ranked 1st in college football, allowing 156 passing yards per game, but rush defense 123rd in the country, giving up 208 yards per game, and also giving up 20.3 7 points per game, which was 22nd in the country, which is good. So they were stopping from scoring, but they couldn't stop them on the ground. And that's a whole thing. That's going to be the whole
You're also
thing.
about to get to the part where they couldn't score points.
Yeah, I was about to get there. Total offense. So defense, they for 52nd. Offense, 93rd. 360 yards per game. Scoring-wise, 101st. Only scored 22 points per game. Rushing offense, 80th, even with Devon A-Chain. Devon A-Chain?
There you go.
A-Chain as the starting running back, and pass offense, 84th. And that's with 3 quarterbacks. They couldn't throw the ball.
Yep.
They had 3 arms that were all good to go at one point in the season, and they could not throw over 200 yards per game, 220 yards per game.
Nothing wrong with having 3 quarterbacks. You think that all 3 of them could play at one point. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. 2012, I had so much fun watching Kyle Frazier. I can't remember their names now.
2016, continue though.
Yeah, 2016, but John Franklin III couldn't really throw the ball. So you go into a game against a team that kind of has a really good defense, because Texas A&M always has a good defense nowadays, except for running the ball. They picked up a few good defensive players from the portal. Offense-wise, they did not help that much. You go into a season where Connor Wegman, who had a pretty decent season for what it's worth. He didn't really play all that much. It was more Haynes King until Haynes King got hurt. Connor Wegman came in, didn't throw an interception. He went 8-0 with 2 touchdowns and interceptions.
What was A&M's turnover ratio last year?
They were in the negative. They were -1. They got 11 fumble recoveries to 6 interceptions, or they lost 11 fumbles. There we go. Lost 11 fumbles to 6 interceptions that were thrown. That's 17 to 12 fumble recoveries and 4 interceptions on the defense. So -1 for the turnover margin, which was 78th in the country.
That's not terrible.
It's not. They didn't turn the ball over that much. They just weren't getting to the end zone. Whether they were kicking.
I remember that part of the season where A&M could not find the end zone. I remember that.
Yeah, it took them almost 3 hours of watch time and almost an hour of game time for them to even get in the end zone against Auburn, and on a defense that I would say played a whole lot better at the back half of that season, for what it's worth. But a defense that up to that point had not really shown that they can stop the pass outside of DJ James and Nehemiah Pritchett when he got back on the field.
I love Coach Caddy. Y'all know this.
Oh yeah.
A&M offense really lost to the power of friendship that game.
Yeah, when you sell at Jordan-Hare Stadium to an Auburn team that has 3 wins,
Auburn wasn't losing that game. That's what's happening.
Yeah. But the bright side to A&M fans, at least, they returned their top 3 wide receivers: Evan Stewart, Moose Muhammad, and Anaya Smith. They finished top 10 in recruiting and 24th in transfer portal, according to 24/7. On3 does not like this transfer portal class for A&M at all. They're dead last in the SEC. And that comes to the point they lost 31 players. Again, just cannot stress that. Lost 31 players. And now you have a coach who is on his last line, is on his last life.
He's one SEC loss away from being a fantastic head coach at Arkansas State.
And this is also going to be A&M's first SEC game as well, which is pretty obvious. Week 4. Weeks 1 through 3 for Texas A&M go New Mexico, the Lobos. Then they go to Miami, and then they have ULM.
A&M may already have a loss on his record.
Miami and A&M was a pretty tight game, for what it's worth, for 2 teams that definitely very much underperformed. One of us here picked Miami to win the SEC. I'm not going to say names. Not going to say any names. Could have been me. Could have not been. We don't know.
We know it wasn't me.
We don't know that it wasn't.
Daniel's smarter than that.
Sorry.
I'm never going to pick Miami, ever.
He's a Notre Dame stan, so he's not going to pick Miami ever. So that narrows it down a little bit. It was Colin.
You weren't even on staff here yet.
Hey. But yeah, you got a good point. I think Miami could find a way to actually be decent this year, for what it's worth. They always recruit well. And I think I'm blanking on the name. Oh my God. Who's Miami's coach?
How about Mario Cristobal?
Mario Cristobal. Oh my God.
Hey.
could have been Auburn coach for every message board whenever Auburn was looking for a head coach.
Everyone was going to be Auburn's head coach.
I think Mario Cristobal can turn Miami around. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know when or why he can. I just know he can. And I think Jimbo Fisher is one loss in the week 4 of the 2023 season in College Station, Texas, and Kyle Field, loss away from getting his butt kicked to the curb. And
a film breakdown specialist at the University of Alabama.
Yeah, he's going to be an offensive specialist at Alabama. He's going to be making about $2 million a year and not doing anything and still finding a way to get a head coaching job.
$2 million a year?
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher,
bro, he's gonna be a volunteer.
His agent knows how to scam people paying him money. You see his 10-year contract he got from A&M.
You're right, and the blank trophy. Let's not forget about that. Let's never forget about that.
Yeah, but it's a game that I think ESPN has greatly underestimated what an Auburn team can do in College Station. Because I think in the past, ever since A&M joined the SEC, I feel like Auburn has a winning record in College Station.
They only have one loss.
Yeah, that's it. They only lost there once.
And that was what, 2020?
Brian Harsin.
2021.
2021. There we go.
You're going to hear that's going to be a common theme, by the way. Auburn only did this negative thing one time, and it was under Brian Harsin.
Yeah.
All I know is that if I'm an A&M fan at this point in time, I'm getting pretty impatient. In fact, my patience is gone. Because everything people say you need to have to win in college football, Jimbo Fisher's had and more. It's kind of hard to believe that a decade ago he was competing and won a national championship. Because if you look at the last couple years, you would just have a hard time believing that. And you have something to say?
Just want to throw it out there. People don't talk about this enough. Like, he's kind of a glorified Gene Chizik. Like a little bit, because does Florida State win that national championship without Jameis Winston?
No.
Is Florida State even that damn good without Jameis Winston that year?
No.
Answer's no. He put together a string of decent teams at Florida State. Then he had a generational quarterback. Say what you want about Jameis Winston's pro career, but like a very, very, very good college quarterback, Heisman winner. I mean, like, he's kind of like a step and a half up Gene Chizik.
I wouldn't go that far. Because Gene Chizik got...
Go ahead and enlighten me with the rest of the accolades since then.
I mean, since
then.
That
he's got. Daniel, continue your point. That's just my point.
It doesn't help things that Missouri's been to Atlanta twice. I know that was a decade ago, but still... 2 SEC championship game appearances, and that's the team that came into this with you. So everything, in a way, is always going to be compared to them. Just kind of see who's – and I know there was some years, like the East was pretty bad those years, but still. There have been years that the West has not been super, super daunting.
Sure.
Still hard. But anyway, you just go down the list, and there are just a lot of things I don't like. As Harrison said, the culture around the program can't be too good. Seems to be a common theme on this episode. So, yeah, I think Auburn's going to go in and appease the 2021 loss and continue their winning traditions in College Station.
Yeah, and I mean, I can pretty much inform everybody right now. I think it's almost a guarantee that Auburn will not be ranked going into College Station, but A&M will be, and that digit is
not if Texas A&M loses to Miami.
If A&M loses to Miami, they're not ranked, and A&M is going to be ranked. Miami is going to be ranked then in the top 10. That's how AP poll works. A&M will definitely start the season off, and at the bare minimum, top 12. And if they get wins against New Mexico, Miami, and ULM, all powerhouses of the sport.
I don't think they'll be that high ranked, but go on.
Dude, AP poll loves A&M every year.
I don't think they'll be ranked, period.
I don't think they're going to be ranked coming into this year.
No, I mean, it's a 5-7 team that hasn't made any significant improvement in the offseason. How can you rank that preseason?
They're one of those teams that they turned into a USC of yesteryear, where USC could go off of a bad season and end up being ranked somehow.
Now that is fact statistic. Yeah, that's correct.
A&M's going to be ranked strictly just because of the hype they carry every season. Because it's always, can we awaken a sleeping giant? And everyone thinks and everyone knows outside of AP voters that they're not a giant at all. They have a lot of money. A&M is very rich. And they may have used some of that money for their 2022 class, per Nick Saban. And every year it's the same thing. Can A&M finally get over the hump? And that hump is a elephant-sized mountain. And they just can't. They got over it one year, but it didn't matter. They still collapsed like they always do. Every Jimbo Fisher team post the Jameis Winston era has found a way to collapse in and itself. And every year it's the same thing, same hype train that follows Jimbo Fisher. It's just the case of a national championship winning coach. Because you're like, oh, can he do what he did with Jameis Winston? Connor Wegman's a decent quarterback. He's not Jameis Winston. And there might never be another Jameis Winston, just because off the field issues aside, I believe me, I don't like Florida State as much as every Auburn fan that listens to this show. Jameis Winston was a daggum good quarterback, and
He's a gamer.
He's one of the best quarterbacks ever watched in my time. I'd put him at least in the top 10 of quarterbacks that I've watched in my time watching the sport, and I've watched a lot of it. And a serious conversation, and it's definitely true that Jameis Winston definitely carried that team. Because believe me, I know who the number one wide receiver was for Florida State, and I watched what he did in years after that national championship. Yeah, he was not that good. And his name was Kelvin Benjamin, and I hate him forever for multiple reasons. But, I mean, going to this game, Auburn's going to be heavily rated and the heavy underdog.
It's going to be like a 4.5, 5.5 point line for A&M going to that game. Book it.
I probably, but as it stands right now, I think Auburn would be a heavy underdog. As it stands right now, as we were talking about, Auburn's going to be a heavy underdog.
It's going to be that way then.
Well, it's every year. Again, it's every year. A&M is hyped up, and they're going to be like I think 10-point favorite at the start of the season.
Also, there's a whole side tangent we could go on about how Kyle Field's one of the more overrated atmospheres in college football, but continue.
Well, that causes a lot of issues. If someone hears about that doesn't, they'll be in your front yard doing a midnight yell, telling terrible jokes.
Pull up to my front yard and midnight yell. Come on. That's not me threatening to assault anyone, but I am going to stand on my front porch and roast the shit out of you for thinking in school.
Well,
I don't even have to do that. I'm not going to verbally threaten anybody. I'm just going to hit record on my iPhone and let everybody else on Twitter take care of the rest.
Auburn Twitter is very ruthless, and they would love their chances to go out
It's not. There would be some other fan bases that would be in line. LSU would be knocking on the freaking door.
But yeah, just to go back over it, first SEC game of the season for Hugh Freeze back in the SEC, travels to College Station to play at Kyle Field in a game you can probably assume is going to be 11 a.m. maybe.
No,
it's 11 a.m. or 6. It's not.
Yeah, it's one or the other, but
2:30 CBS, book it.
Hell yeah, brother.
Well,
I mean, if Dylan's allowed to talk crazy, why can't I?
I love it.
If they're both 3-0 at this point, I mean, who's to say it won't happen?
Well, I haven't looked at the rest of the slate that week.
I was thinking that. I was just about to say that, Daniel.
CBS is sharing the season with the Big Ten, so there very well could be a weird Big Ten game that's going to take that slate. But yeah, first game
State and Rutgers.
Yes.
Hey, don't hate on Rutgers. Leave Rutgers out of this.
Rutgers.
No, you don't.
So just our question again. Hugh Freeze back in the SEC. First SEC game is in College Station at Kyle Field versus the Jimbo Fisher, who is on his last life and last line as a Texas A&M head coach. Daniel, who's winning and what's your score?
Auburn's going to win. I don't think it's going to be a very offensive game. Sort of like last year. Not that they can't, just the fact that I just don't think it'll be that high scoring.
Okay.
I'm going to take Auburn at like a 20-13, 20-10, something like that kind of feels right.
Tarr.
I'm doing some quick maths. Hold on. I like 27-20 Auburn. I'm throwing in field goals and not accounting for A&M to be able to reach the end zone more than twice.
I like it, and we're going to keep the train going. I'm going to go Auburn, and I like the point differentials because I'm going to say 24-17 in Auburn's favor. And at this point, it stands in our rankings or our record. Auburn is now 4-0 across the board, with now a win over a ranked opponent.
Hey, if you're going to call 24-17, you got to call something stupid like Auburn wins on a scoop and score.
Oh, it's going to be Auburn picks up the onside kick that A&M calls for no reason and run it back for the touchdown.
But that happens in the second quarter.
No, I got it.
Like that's what'd you say?
I got it. All right. So they do a squib kick. It's 3 seconds left in the game. Squib kick, just around the clock. Gunnar Britton in the middle of the field picks up the squib kick and runs it 75 yards to the end zone to win the game.
It has to be something stupid, right? Like it's got to be dumb.
And Gunnar Britton gets carried out on a chariot of gold.
Auburn refuses to play a normal football game. Continue with where we're at, Dylan, because we are running long today.
Yeah, as it stands right now, Auburn is 4-0 across the board. And next week, get ready for the next preview against the Georgia Bulldogs, who are going to probably be the number one team in the country at this point throughout the season.
The entire football season, yes.
And just get ready for that. But we are going to move on to recruiting. And holy crap, the news that came out today and yesterday, really. So we're going to start off with 5-star linebacker DeMarcus Riddick, who we talked about in previous shows about a little Owen Papo comparison, has said he will be at Big Cat Weekend. And just a friendly reminder for this 5-star linebacker, he will be announcing his commitment on July 26th. And Big Cat Weekend is the 29th. So,
hey yo,
I'm not or anything.
That doesn't mean it's an Auburn lock. Just keep that in mind. Kids will continue to take visits, continue to go to camps.
Yeah,
but Daniel, that feels pretty not bad.
No. And if UTEP can turn in a top 100 recruiting class, there's no reason that Auburn can't land this guy.
That's actually a freaking fantastic analysis.
Sure.
And I'm going to start using that in my day-to-day life. If UTEP can pull a top 100 recruiting class, I can do this.
Yeah, and it'd be a huge pickup for a guy who I believe right now was a heavily favored Georgia commit. He announced his commitment date, but 24/7 already has him as a hard commit to the Georgia Bulldogs. So make sense for what it's worth. And I think we talked about him, 2 episodes ago. Tarr, remember you were there, where I think it was Auburn, Georgia, OU, and a few other schools listed amongst that crowd. And another big target who announced that he'll be a Big Cat Weekend, L.O. Perry Thompson, 5-star wide receiver, Bama commit, who I saw a graphic yesterday as the show comes out. Perry Thompson has been to 1 visit at Alabama this year. He's been to 6 in Auburn.
Well, I mean, that's too much time in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, you ain't lying. But again, if you want Perry Thompson, 5-star wide receiver from Foley, Alabama, number 4 overall wide receiver in the class, number 2 overall in Alabama, be in Auburn instead of Alabama on Auburn's biggest recruiting event. And I mean, there's another dude we're going to talk about in a little bit who is also not going to be there too.
Super quickly, Perry Thompson feels a little bit like he just needs a why. Just needs a why. And there are going to be a lot of guys like that as you're cycling through, right? And Hugh Freeze certainly lived through that already. But I think it's just one of those, I need a reason why I should flip. And that could really be a plausible outcome.
And it really helps when he likes posts by a certain podcast when it talks about Auburn wide receivers getting to 1,000 yards. So that helps the case too.
That does happen. Yep.
And
sorry, where is Foley in the state of Alabama? I'm sorry, I'm still learning.
Oh, my knowledge I've lived throughout my life. I couldn't tell you where Foley is. It's probably.
I think it's in the Bay Area.
Okay. We'll just say it's in the Bay Area. That's closer to Auburn. I mean, just there's your why.
I mean, yeah, and just getting Perry Thompson and Cameron Coleman has been getting a lot of traction with predictions from. I think he's had 3 or 4.
Yeah. It's literally Gulf Shores.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But Perry Thompson has been a heavy lean towards Auburn, is what it sounds like, at least. I don't know what the kid actually thinks. That's what I've been listening to. The fact that he's been to Auburn 5 more times in the past 6 months than he's been to Alabama is telling enough. And
maybe, sorry to cut you off, but maybe another factor, like he knows that at Auburn, the day that he arrives on campus, he will be the dude in that room.
Yeah.
Whatever the pitch is.
Sure.
I mean, that's a wide receiver room that would have Camden Brown, Cameron Coleman, hopefully, fingers crossed, Perry Thompson, and a few other dudes. Caleb Burton, the big guy from Ohio State, who probably needs another year to really emerge as a big top target. That's a pretty good wide receiver room. And I'd go further to say that's a pretty awesome receiver room.
That's right.
Sure.
Especially and mentioning Cameron Coleman, he will also be at Big Cat Weekend. And another guy is going to be at Big Cat Weekend. KJ frickin' Bolden is going to be there as well.
What is his legal name?
His name is Khalil.
I didn't know if it was KJ freaking Bolden. I didn't know if that was.
I've asked him. It's his middle name.
Okay, cool. That's understandable.
The J is just invisible. It's not really there. But he doesn't like to go by his middle name that much. Got to be honest with you. And then with KJ Bolden, he has also announced his commitment date. He'll be announcing where he's going August 5th, which if Big Cat Weekend is the 29th, Auburn.
Last impression, huh?
Yeah, you're going to be the last team that KJ Bolden speaks to, and he announced his top 5. Bama, FSU, Ohio State, Auburn, and Georgia were all in that list. And I think as it stands right now, I think it's Georgia and Auburn are the 2 teams that are really in on KJ Bolden.
Side note, I know that Ohio State's one of those schools, like those schools. Like a lot of these kids that have Ohio State in their like top 5, top 10. I know they wind up with great recruiting classes every year, and it doesn't matter. But I feel like it's one of those just like I'm throwing Alabama and Ohio State in my top 5 just for the premise of reminding people that I got offers from Alabama and Ohio State. And that's not me dogging. It's just an interesting observation. You know what I mean? Because I feel like
I'm sure the number 2 overall recruit in the class probably has a few offers from a lot of other schools too.
No, I'm not saying that. It's happened on a number of occasions too. Where you're like, okay, like we get it. Like Ohio State and Alabama are offered you to play football there. You're not seriously considering them. Your top 5 is actually the top 3. You're just putting those other 2 there to remind people that 2 of the premier brands in college football offered you.
and it's worth noting.
And I would do it too.
If you find a way to pull in KJ Bolden, he'll be your first 5-star defensive back in a room that consists right now of 3 with Finley Austin, Amon Lane, Jaden Lewis. And you're really looking like you're going to get Jalen Crawford out of Georgia, who is also looking at Florida and LSU, me and Ian talked about in the last episode, a guy who Auburn is currently battling out with 2 teams who are currently recognized as, I think, 1 and 3 of the DBU rankings for what it stands. I'm pretty sure. You're going into Georgia to recruit this guy, and you're also going to Georgia to recruit KJ Bolden, a guy who Georgia really wants. And if you can find a way to go into Buford and take KJ Bolden out of and get Dylan Raiola out of his ear, because there's a clear reason why Dylan Raiola probably went to Buford. Good Lord. Again, this is a Hugh Freeze recruiting love fest, because every show we come on here and just talk about the recruiting. But if he can find a way to flip Perry Thompson and make that official, if he can find a way to get KJ Bolden to not go to Georgia, if he can find a way to get DeMarcus Riddick not to go to Georgia, if he can keep Cameron Coleman and keep these predictions, if he can make these predictions come true about Cameron Coleman, you were surrounding yourself with some pretty doggone good freshmen. And Auburn in the past 10 years has maybe gotten 2 5-stars in a class as a whole. And that was Unpapa and Bo Nix. I can't fathom what a recruiting class with 4 5-stars would look like at this early part of the recruiting class. I don't think there's a chance Auburn gets all 4 of these guys.
Yeah, and sorry. Just kind of go along with what you're saying. Like going into Buford and picking guys out of there is like going into Hoover and getting guys to flip away from Bama a decade ago. Like it is a big deal. The premier brand in that state, it's close to the premier brand at the college level. And you go in there and convince them to take up something else. Like that can't be overstated enough.
Tarr, you ready to face?
I mean, Buford's not even 7A, but yeah.
Well, Buford is now like highly ranked.
They're the only people I see.
They're now highly ranked because of Dylan Raiola, KJ Bolden, and the other dude that's at Buford right now. 3 5-stars at Buford have them nationally ranked.
Buford's disgusting.
Yeah.
Really good.
What's your issue?
He's a Grayson alum, so he's
No, I don't care about that. They're not.
Then who is?
The premier brand in Georgia State?
I'll make sure to get it right next time.
Valdosta.
Yeah.
Historically.
Isn't that where old boy Rush Probst was?
Yes.
That's my guy. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, no,
Valdosta.
Valdosta.
Cool.
Historically.
Do you want me to rephrase? It's like getting a commit away from a Rush Probst school.
It's, Buford is the gold standard of high school.
You just got on to me for saying it wasn't.
Let me finish. Of high school football in the state of Georgia for city schools that can legally recruit. Let's move forward. They can. It's a law in Georgia. You can recruit if you're a city school.
Yeah, I believe you. 100%.
You just have to give them academic scholarships.
Well, that's pretty much it for recruiting. Cameron Coleman's got 2 more predictions on 3. KJ Bolden.
You would have guys go through recruitment processes twice. Continue.
Yeah, KJ Bolden, DeMarcus Riddick, Perry Thompson, and Cameron Coleman. 4 5-stars. Sorry, a lot of 4-stars going on. 4 5-stars are going to be in Big Cat Weekend all at once. And that's not even scratching the surface of the amount of players that are coming to Big Cat Weekend. And, I mean, you already know 2 guys who have been very adamant on recruiting this class. Walker White and Jamarion Fat Burnett are going to be there too, and they're going to be in people's ears.
I don't know anything about either of those guys trying to get people there. That's crazy.
Well, there are 4 dudes that I know for a fact that Walker White is not going to leave alone throughout their entire time.
Walker, it kind of a little bit gives me the do you have 5 minutes to talk about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ vibe? You know what I mean? Like, I respect it. Like I absolutely, I think that if kids should be as involved or uninvolved, but as involved in the recruiting process of their teammates as possible. I just think it's very funny. Do you have 5 minutes to talk about our Lord and Savior?
Well, I feel like a weird thing that I don't know if people really noticed. I feel like a lot more recruits have been shutting down the recruitment a lot sooner than usual now. No,
you're now cheering for / covering a team that's actually getting guys to shut down their recruitment.
That could be the case too. But I mean, I'm all for it. I love this.
You are.
I've never been this into recruiting as I have been, and it's been a fun year to be following recruiting for Auburn football.
It's like growing up in Georgia, watching my friends that were Georgia fans and get into recruiting when Kirby Smart got there because someone that understood the way it worked got there.
Hey, Georgia Tech had Calvin Johnson. They got him somehow. They got a Hall of Fame wide receiver, the school that run the triple option.
Mark Richt is like 3 factors away from being one of the greatest coaches ever. Like if 3 things had gone his way, he would be talked about in a much higher regard.
Yeah, if Aaron Murray had gotten the ball down quicker and spiked it, if Alabama didn't exist, and
all right, this is not a UGA podcast. I'll just leave you off with Mark Richt. I love and miss Mark Richt.
Yeah.
But really good at losing to Georgia Tech in Athens.
Tune into the next episode of the College Loop where we're going to be continuing our theoretical Thursday. There we go. That's a hard word to say. Next week.
Possibly with Brooks Walton.
Possibly with Brooks Walton. The return of – what would it be this time? Bird's Day with Brooks?
Anyways.
Well, it's a little late here at the College Loop headquarters. But just to move on to baseball, before we do, Colin, do you have a Bagman of the week? Not really. Actually, wait a minute. We don't have to go to baseball just yet. We have to finish off the long-awaited return of Tarr. Your favorite thing that I've made.
Oh yeah, I love this.
Do I not have it in the? Oh, I don't have it in this thing.
Damn it, Dylan. This is the College Eloped.
This is the episode of the College Eloped. Where
Colin, get on here. I know you watched.
Colin, did you watch?
No, but I'll come talk.
Well, if we're going to cover The Bachelor for a little bit, so if you don't like that, at least skip like 5 minutes in the video. We'll talk about Chris Stanfield.
5 minutes.
I don't know. You don't know how long it's going to take.
That's a lot. That's a lot of batch talk.
But yeah, if you've also been watching The Bachelor, like all of us, me have, you would know that Caleb Kim's time on The Bachelor has been sadly ended.
Yep, I would like a recount.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I got to know if there's like deleted scenes of him talking to Charity, because it just hasn't happened at all. You rarely see it. And this episode, it wasn't even his fault that he didn't get to talk to her. It was two other dudes who decided to have beef with each other's fault. And I'm livid about it. I was on the floor. I felt like I just watched a missed game-winning field goal. It hurt.
That's a hell of a way to describe The Bachelorette.
Hey, if you got to treat it like a sport. If you treat it like a sport, it's fun to watch for a guy.
I mean, I didn't watch the first episode, but now that I know I only have to watch 2 episodes, and as soon as we know that, as soon as we get to the point where Caleb Kim's not there anymore, I can just turn it off. I'm good.
Yeah, you only got to watch 3.5 hours of it.
But
50 seconds of screen time.
3.5 hours.
3 hours. It's an hour and a half.
The
Yeah.
2-hour time slots.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Have you ever watched The Bachelorette?
Anyways, I'm not.
But yeah, sadly, this ends the college eloped. It was a great run. I wish I'd remembered to put it in the docket.
I'm so mind.
But yeah, sadly, Caleb Kim did not make it to episode 3.
Tough team.
And it makes no sense because 2 guys who had beef with each other should have been kicked off. And that's where I'll leave it. But we're going to move on to baseball, where a Auburn freshman, now going into his sophomore year, has been popping off on his minor league team. Correct? It's a minor league team.
Summer ball.
Summer ball team. The Bourne Braves. Chris Stanfield is having a field day, if you will, for the Bourne Braves.
385 batting average, scoring 6 runs on 10 hits in 6 games, adding 6 ribbies, fielding percentage of 1,000. Like you threw it here, the Bourne Braves are 11-8 and are on a 3-game win streak. They post about Stanfield a lot. Of course they do. They want to pull the Auburn audience. Trust me, I work in this industry. Yeah, I mean, good for him. I imagine he'll play for another 2 weeks, and then he will return back to Auburn. He will not, or not if he even plays for another 2 weeks. Usually, Power 5 guys are only there for a couple weeks just to get reps in as temp guys. Just keep the arm loose, keep the mechanics strong. But yeah, no, it's always fun to see your guys, your guys do well in summer ball. It makes the experience more enjoyable for everyone. But yeah, that dude is going to be, by the end of his tenure at Auburn, Colin, we're going to look back and say that guy was special.
I'm excited for his career as a whole as well. He just seems he's so fun to watch. Like, I don't know. He does his little dance every time he gets on base. I can get behind that.
Hats can't stay on his head.
Hats can't stay on his head. He plays a good outfield.
Yeah.
He's got an arm. He's a 5-tool player. He'll do anything on the field that you ask him to do. Easy.
I'm excited to see how he plugs and plays. Daniel, do you move him over to center this year?
Yeah. I don't see why not. Most experienced outfielder, is that a fact? It might be. We won't know.
Dang, that outfield was old this year. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Sort of like the 2 guys on the top of the screen. I called you old. I know you're old, so it took a minute, but I called you old.
Caught a stray.
Daniel, I can control your mic on this show. You know that, right?
Yeah, I can control it too. Good job.
I can kick you out of the room too, sir.
How dare you? Yeah, but Chris Stanfield in center field. And then he'll be there to mentor the young guys, and it'll be good. Because I feel like baseball is the sport that is closest to winning a natty right now. And Chris Stanfield will be a part of making that happen.
I agree.
Wow, that's a first. I'm kidding. I know you agree with me a lot.
That's like the second most excited I am for player position relocation. Number 1, get I got respect where he belongs.
Well, I mean, Chris Stanfield is playing center field for the Bourne Braves, I will say.
That's what I'm saying. I'm excited. I'm talking about in the spring for the
I know.
Auburn Tigers. I'm excited to see guys back in their defensive positions where they can contribute multiple places. In this young class, I mean, dude, this freshman class is legit, or this now sophomore class is legit. So, yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah, and I brought it up with Chris Stanfield, being a guy who gets posted about a lot. You know, another former Auburn athlete who gets posted about a lot?
Sonny DiChiara.
Yes. Who maybe soon have a
Was that the correct answer?
No, it was going to be Ryan Bliss. The Armadillos? Is that what the minor league team plays
Yep.
for? Yeah,
Mhm.
they love Ryan Bliss, and I can't blame him whatsoever. Every play he makes a lot of plays, and he's a play to watch.
Actually, Amarillo Sod Poodles. Oddly enough, their marketing director was my boss for a little while. It's a weird crossover event in my life.
So when are we getting Ryan Bliss on the show?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, honestly, just hit him up. But he's also a dog.
Oh,
My favorite thing ever is I follow them on socials as well because Ryan plays there, and seeing people in the comments every now and then they'll be like, "Man, when's Bliss getting called up? This guy's really good." And I want to respond all the time. Like, we tried to truth this to you guys a long time ago, and none of y'all listen. So I hope he gets traded and sent up.
well, I know a team in LA that would like to have him, or at least a fan of a team in LA that would like to have him.
That's it. There's nowhere
Not
for
even.
him.
I ain't gonna get started on that.
Yeah, there's nowhere for him playing LA. Anyways, I think that's all we got for today, right, Dylan?
You're unless you're talking about
Colin,
Edward Julie hit a home run.
Make sure you spell out your name so people will know where to follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, you can find me at Beyersdorf Colin. That's BEYERSDORF Colin.
There
Colin
you go.
1L. 1L Colin.
That's right. That's right. Daniel, tell people where they can find you, support you, love you.
You can get at me on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke. Written work for the Auburn Wire and newly 1819 News. My debut piece for them will be going up very soon. I'm just going to talk about the status of Auburn guys in the MLB and the various levels of the minor leagues. So if you want to read a blurb about Ryan Bliss, there will be one.
There you go. I want all the Casey Mize content that you can possibly force feed me. So I'm Harrison Tarr, at by Harrison Tarr on the Bird app. No written work right now, to be completely candid with you. In the middle of some professional changes within my own professional career. So working on a couple of things there. Really, really excited to share some news with you guys coming up soon. I really, really hope. So thank you guys for following along. I'm like, as I always say, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, not just here at the College Loop, but make sure you go check out and get after everybody else over at the War Report family of networks, whether that be the War Report or the Up Tempo podcast. Make sure you go show all those guys some love. We're one big happy family here, so we're super, super excited for all the new stuff headed y'all's way. Dylan, let's get out of here.
Yep, and of course, I'm Dylan Larck at Bullet Tank on Twitter. Do what Tarr just said. Go follow all those guys over there. They do great work. They might be better than us. We don't know. Sources are saying the War Report's better than us.
There are people saying.
But yeah,
that.
at you with a tank. That's at YABOY the tank. It's also right there. If you want a visual meme of that, and if you scroll down, you can also find all of our links to our Twitters. Also, while you're scrolling down there, like, comment, and subscribe. Leave questions. We love to answer them. Give us the Theoretical Thursday prompts. We love those too. And if you want to follow us, you have, of course, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can also listen to us literally anywhere you listen to podcasts, whether it be Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcasts. Did I mention that one already or no? I get jumbled up sometimes. But with all that being said, this has been the College Loop podcast.